reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, Chapter 6, Text 39, sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Avaropya Girim Skandhat Suparnaha Apatatam Varaha Yayao Jalanta Utsraja Punina Sa Visarjitaha Avaropya Girim Skandhat. Haribol. Thank you. Blessings. Suparna Patatam Varaha Yayal Jalanta Utsrija Harinasa Avisarjitaha Avaropya Girhim Skandhat Suparna Patatam Vanaha Yayal Jalanta Utsrija Urinasa Visarjitaha Avaropya Girhim Skandhat Suparna Patatam Vanaha Yayal Jalanta Utsrija Urinasa Visarjitaha.
Avaropya Girim Skandhat Avaropya Girim Skandhat Suparna Patitambara Suparna Patitambara Jalanta Utsrija Jalanta Utsrija Harinasa Visarjitaha Harinasa Visarjitaha Avaropya Girim Skandhat Avaropya Girim Skandhat Suparna Patitambara Suparna
Ladies. All right. Avaropya unloading. Girim, the mountain. Skandhat, from his shoulder. Suparnaha, Garuda. Patatam, of all the birds. Varaha, the biggest or most powerful. Yayao, went. Jala ante,
Ante,
where the water is.
where the water is.
Utrija,
Sritya,
placing.
placing.
Hanina,
Harina,
by the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Saha, he Garuda.
He Garuda.
Visarjitaha, discharged from that place.
We start from that place.
So, translation. Thereafter, Garuda, the chief of birds, unloaded Mandara from his shoulder and brought it near the water. Then he was asked by the Lord to leave that place, and he left. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Garuda was asked by the Lord to leave that place because the snake Vasuki, who was to be used as a rope for churning, could not go there in the presence of Garuda. Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, is not a vegetarian. He eats big snakes. Vasuki, being a great snake, would be natural food for Garuda, the chief of birds. Lord Vishnu therefore asked Garuda to leave so that Vasuki could be brought to churn the ocean with Mandara mountain, which was to be used as the churning rod. These are the wonderful arrangements of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing takes place by accident. Carrying Mandara mountain on the back of a bird and putting it in its right position might be difficult for anyone, whether demigod or demon. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is possible as shown by this pastime. The Lord had no difficulty lifting the mountain with one hand, and Garuda, his carrier, carried all the demons and demigods together by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Lord is known as Yogeshvara, the master of all mystic power because of his omnipotence. If he likes, he can make anything lighter than cotton or heavier than the universe. Those who do not believe in the activities of the Lord cannot explain how things happen. Using words like accident, they take shelter of ideas that are unbelievable. Nothing is accidental. Everything is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord himself confirms in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text 10. Maya jakshena prakriti suyate sa chara charam. Whatever actions and reactions occur within the cosmic manifestation, all take place under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, because the demons do not understand the potency of the Lord, when wonderful things are done, the demons think that they are accidental. So, thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Demigods and Demons Declare the Truths. So again, Avaropya Ganim Skandat Suparna Patatam Vadava Iho Jalanta Utsritsha Urinasa Visarjitapa. So Om Gana Timirandasha Ganam Jana Shlakya Chakshuru Meditam Yena Tasmai Shivave Namaha. So I thought we should speak about Garuda here and understand a little bit about him, the great bird carrier of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Garuda's story is quite interesting. This story is told elaborately in the Mahabharata, not the movie, but the Mahabharata book that was written by Srila Vyasadeva. So, here's the story. Once upon a time, Kashyapa Muni got married. He had many wives, but actually two of his wives were Kadru and Vinata, two nice ladies. And so this Kadru and Vinata, they were given the option by their husband, Kashyapa, what type of children do you want? Kashyapa said, you can either have 1,000 children, or you can have 2 powerful children. Okay. So Kadru said, I want 1,000 kids. And he said, okay, you can have 1,000 kids. And Vinata said, I want 2 really powerful children. Okay. So basically, these ladies, to make a long story short, in those days, they gave birth in a different way. The ladies laid eggs. And they sat on their eggs for some time, about 500 years. Yeah, it was about 500,000, sorry, it was 500,000 years. Long time to sit on an egg. And so, what happened is that the eggs of Kadru hatched all 1,000 eggs. And they were 1,000 snakes. And Vinata, her eggs didn't hatch. She got a little impatient. So what she did was that she broke open one of her eggs just to see, what's happening here, come out already. And so when she broke open that egg, there was a half-formed bird inside. And that half-formed bird cursed his mother. He said, because you have broken open the egg prematurely, I curse you to be the slave of your co-wife. That's Kadru. Curse Vinata to be the slave of Kadru. So she was very upset. And so he said, this person, half-formed bird, his name was Aruna, incidentally, who, last time you mentioned, he's the father of Jatayu and Sampati. So, Hare Krishna. Then what happened is, so she decided to wait. So while she was waiting for the last bird to be hatched, another 500,000 years, there was a bet between her and her co-wife. There was this horse, Uchaya Shrava, famous horse, Uchaya Shrava, mentioned in the Gita also. So this horse was all white. So the ladies had a bet. What is the color of the horse's tail? And Vinata said the color of the horse's tail is white. And Kadru said, it's black. And whoever loses this bet will become the slave of the other wife. Okay, so they were betting. So Kadru got a little nervous. She's the mother of the snakes, remember? And she told her little snaky kids to go in the tail and make them like hair, black. And they said, no, Mom. And she cursed them. She cursed them all to be killed later on in the sacrifice of Maharaj Janamajaya. That's another story in Bhagavatam. So, but then later on they said, okay, we better listen to our mother. So they went into the tail of the horse, and Vinata and Kadru, they actually flew, because they could fly also. I guess they were like bird ladies or something. They flew to the horse, and they saw that the horse's tail was black, because it had all the snakes in it. And so then Vinata had to become the servant of Kadru. And she had to carry Kadru on her back everywhere. All right, and so fast forward 500,000 more years, and her second son was born. And that second son was named Garuda, the bird carrier of the Lord. So Garuda, actually the word Garuda means someone who carries heavy burdens, can carry a lot. Just like the word used for Garuda here in the verse is Suparna, which means like amazing feather or amazing wings. So that's, all right. So Garuda was born. And so Garuda, he also had to serve his mother's sister. So he had to serve not only his mother's sister, along with his mother's, Vinata serving Kadru, he had to also serve all of her snake kids. So Garuda had to carry around, this is before he actually became took food of snakes, but anyway. He had to carry around all these snakes on his back. So one day he decided to kill them all. So how was he going to kill them all? He flew close to the sun. And snakes are cold-blooded. So if they get too hot, they die. Oh. So he flew close to the sun, and then Kudru, the snake's mother, got really filled with anxiety because she was thinking that her sons were going to be killed. So she prayed to Indra. Indra rained down on the snakes and saved the snakes. So Garuda was really upset at this point. So eventually he asked the snakes, he says, this is too much for me. I can't be carrying around snakes my whole life. So he asked the snakes, how can I be freed from carrying you around like this? And they said, the only way you can be freed from carrying around us for the rest of your life, and your mother carrying around us too, is if you bring us the Amrit. Amrit means the nectar from the churning of the milk ocean. And so Garuda said, yes, I'll do it. So he said to his mother, it's an amazing story. He said to his mother, I got to eat something so I get the strength to do this job. And his mother said, yeah, you can eat, there's a whole bunch of these nishadas. That means low-class people. You can eat them, the whole village. I guess he's a cannibal also. He eats everything. And she says, but don't eat Brahmins, because Brahmins will choke you, they'll kill you. So he goes to this village of Nishadas, and he opens his mouth, makes his mouth really big, because he can make himself really big and really small. Actually, when he first was born, he made himself so big, the demigods were getting completely in anxiety about him. And so he reduced himself to be very small, so he could actually expand himself, contract himself. So he made his mouth really big and swallowed this whole village of people in Fiji. Anyway, it wasn't Fiji. Maybe it was. So he swallowed this whole village. And after he swallowed the village, he felt a burning sensation in his throat. And he realized he had swallowed a Brahmin too, because this Brahmin had fallen in love with some low-class lady and married her. So Garuda says, you better get out of here, leave my mouth, I haven't digested you yet. So leave with your wife. So they both left, and Garuda was very happy. And so then he was thinking, I'm still hungry. I need to eat something more. So he went to his father, who happened to be meditating, and he said to his father, Kashyapa, that, what can I eat? And his father said, well, there's this giant tortoise and giant elephant that have been fighting each other. They'd be good food for you. Turns out this giant elephant and giant tortoise were two brothers previously who were fighting over money. And they had cursed each other because they were Brahmins. They cursed each other to become an elephant and a tortoise. Tortoise means like a turtle. And so they were fighting. They were giants. So Garuda goes to where they are. They're both fighting each other. And he picks them up with his two claws. And he's looking around for some place to land so that he can eat. Yeah, it's time for prasad. So he's flying around with where can I eat? So none of the trees are strong enough. Finally, there's a giant banyan tree, and the giant banyan tree says, you can land on my branch. So he lands on his branch, and he breaks the branch, he's so heavy. But unfortunately, on that branch, there's these sages, these real tiny sages. They're the size of the thumb. Wala kiles sages, very small. And they're on that branch too, so Garuda doesn't want to kill them. He doesn't want to be cursed by them. So he's flying around with his branch, wondering where can he go. He doesn't want to drop the branch because all the sages on it. And he's just like really in anxiety. Finally, he asks his father, what can I do? His father says, look, he talks to these sages, voila, Helios, and he tells them, leave the branch and go somewhere else and bless my son Garuda. So they bless Garuda with great success. And so he becomes even stronger than he was before. Okay, it's an interesting story. The Mahabharata gets into all these details. This is all from the Mahabharata. So Garuda gets even stronger, and then he's looking for a place to land, and he drops this branch after the sages leave on a mountain. It goes on top of the mountain, and he eats his prasad, the tortoise and the elephant. And he gets very strong. And then he heads directly for Swarga, where the nectar of immortality, the Amrit, is. So he flies there. And all the demigods, understanding what's happening, try to attack him, and he basically defeats them. Completely defeats them. He defeats every single last demigod. He's so powerful. Nobody can defeat Garuda. So then, after defeating them, he understands that the nectar is kept in this place that is being guarded by two, like, envious snakes, and then there's a razor wheel that's spinning continually, so he has to somehow or other deal with that wheel, razor blades, just So in order to go through the wheel, he makes himself really small and fast, goes through the section of the wheel. And then he kills the two snakes, and takes takes the Amrit. And so he's going back with the Amrit, and Indra, on the way back, fires his thunderbolt that was made with the bones of Dadichi. He fires it at Garuda, and this thunderbolt is so powerful, but Garuda, just in order to honor the thunderbolt, he drops one feather. And this feather is so big it practically covers the whole universe. It's amazing. Indra then realizes, I'm not going to defeat this guy. And he makes a deal. He says, let's become friends. How can you give this nectar to these snakes? And Garuda says, well, I got to get free from the servitude that that my mother is under and I'm under. And so Indra says, okay, let's make a deal. You give the snakes the Amrit, and after you give the snakes the Amrit, you tell them to do their purificatory rituals, and I'll steal the nectar back. Okay. So Garuda says, yeah, that's a good idea, and I want a blessing from you, Indra, in return. Indra says, you know what blessing do you want? And he says, I want my food to be snakes. It's really interesting. And Indra says, okay. So Garuda goes, and he brings the Amrit to his cousin, brothers, and he says, here's the nectar. But first you've got to take your bath, you've got to do your rituals, and you can take the nectar. So he goes away, and then Indra steals the nectar. And then snakes come back, and they're so upset that they start licking the grass, because there's a few drops of nectar there. And a lot of their tongues become bifurcated. You see snake tongues, they're actually, not always, but sometimes they're like that. And they're very poisonous, just like if you go to Australia, they have the most poisonous snakes in the world. Some of them, they bite you. You cannot survive. You're finished. The most poisonous spiders, snakes, whatever. So then Garuda frees his mother from this servitude. Actually, I left out one part of this story, sorry. On the way back, bringing the nectar to the snakes, he sees Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu says, I'm really pleased with you. ask for a boon, a benediction. And Garuda says, I always want to be above you. And Lord Vishnu says, okay, you can be my flag. So you see on Krishna's chariot, there's always this flag of Garuda. On Arjuna's chariot, there's the flag of Hanuman. And then Lord Vishnu asked for boon, you could be my carrier also. And Garuda says, yes, I guess I could be your carrier. And then he gets a blessing from Lord Vishnu that he doesn't have to drink the nectar to become immortal. Lord Vishnu blesses him to become immortal. So this is actually a beautiful story of Garuda. And so, getting back to the purport here, the snakes are very much afraid of Garuda. And because they're the natural food for Garuda. And that's why there's no snakes here in Fiji. Garuda himself sometimes has a little bit of a spiritual problems. Because he has his benediction for being above Lord Vishnu. So there's also the story in the Mahabharata, which is in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita too. Both stories by Sanatana Goswami, is that Garuda one time said to Lord Vishnu, you are dependent on me to go anywhere. And Lord Vishnu basically put his arm on Garuda and said, okay, let's see if you can fly. And Garuda was crushed. So he becomes very proud sometimes because he's, a big bird. I mean, he's a pure devotee. I'm not going to criticize him, but he becomes proud. And then another story there's also a story from the Mahabharata, that once upon a time, Krishna was in Dwarka. And Krishna wanted to see Hanuman. And so Krishna said to Garuda, you should go and bring Hanuman here. So Garuda flies to Kimpurusha-loka, where Hanuman is chanting and worshipping the deity of Lord Ram. He flies there and he says to Hanuman, you're coming with me, Krishna wants to see you. And Hanuman says, no, I'm not going to do anything unless Lord Ram tells me. This is the chastity of a devotee towards his Ishta Devata. So Garuda says, no, you don't have a choice. You're coming with me. And Hanuman says, well, just try. And Garuda tries, and Hanuman just flicks his tail, and Garuda goes, just like somersaulting all the way back to Krishna and Dwarka. Of course, later on, Krishna took the form, or manifested himself, as Lord Ram, and Rukmini manifested herself as Sita Devi. And then Hanuman agreed to come, and he flew back on his own power to see Sita and Ram in Dwarka. So, anyway, so these are some of the stories of Garuda, and I think that's the main topic here. So any questions or comments about the class? Nice stories, isn't it? There's many, many stories about Garuda. I mean, of course, there's the story of him putting the nectar on the tree in the Yamuna so that Krishna could later on jump off of the tree to attack the Kalila Nag. You know the story? No. Anyway, so what the story is that Garuda, this is a very interesting story, that Garuda was eating fish too. He's not a vegetarian. And he was even eating fish in the Yamuna River. So there's this one sage there. What was the sage's name? What? Not Marichi, no. What? So Shobari Muni, that's right. There was one sage there, Shobari Muni, who was meditating underwater in the Yamuna. And he actually liked the fish. was his big fish tank. So he liked the fish, and so he saw the Garuda was threatening the fish, so he cursed Garuda, if you ever eat a fish here again, you're going to die. So Garuda didn't have to really respect this sage. I mean, he could have counteracted the curse, but he said, all right, just respect you. I won't eat. I have many other places to eat fish. Many, I can go anywhere to eat fish and snakes. The world's filled with fish and snakes. So, but Shobhari Muni, he had committed an offense against Garuda. So when you offend a great devotee, guess what happens? Your material desires increase. You lose a taste for your austerities. You lose a taste for hearing and chanting. So what happened is that he was looking at two fish. There's two ways the stories are told. One way is that he was looking at some fish that got married. I don't know how fish get married, but anyway, fish had children, and he thought there must be someone for me too. So, and then another story, part of the story is that one of the fish brushed him and agitated his senses. Brushed his private parts and agitated his senses. But whatever. He became agitated, and because of his offense to Garuda, he jumped out of the water, ran to the king. I believe Mandata was the king, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he said to the king, I want to marry one of your daughters. The king had 50 daughters. And the king looked at this sage, and he thought, this sage is ugly. Who's going to marry him? Because he was been in the water so long, he had like a seaweed hanging off of him, and he was all wrinkled. When you're in the water a long time, your skin gets wrinkly. I remember when I was young, my mother would give me a bath. You don't have bathtubs here in Fiji, but in the West we have bathtubs, and I'd sit in the bath, enjoying life in a hot bath, and the skin would be extremely wrinkly. So I'd look really bad, like an old man, even though I was 2 years old. So anyway, so this sage, Shobhari Muni, he looked hellish. And so the king thought, nobody's going to marry this guy. But I can't say no. So he told him that whoever wants to marry you can marry you. You have my permission. He was thinking, nobody's going to marry him. So the sage used his mystic powers to make himself extremely handsome. So he goes to where all the ladies are, all the 50 princesses, and he says to them, who wants to marry me? And every single one of them, they were fighting with each other. He's mine, he's mine, he's mine, give me! And so he said, okay, girls, I'll marry you all. So he was able to, by his mystic powers, divide himself up in 50 expansions. Of course, Prabhupada said that those expansions were like television expansions. But when Krishna expands himself, he's doing something different in each expansion. When Narada Muni was visiting Krishna in Dwarka, in each house, something else was happening between Krishna and his children, Krishna and his wives. But when these sages expand themselves, they're just doing the same. It's like if you go into a store that sells many televisions, they all have the same image on them. Probably said television expansion. So the sage, because he committed offenses, he was completely entangled with 50 wives. And then, of course, after some time, the effects of the offense wore off, and he realized, he said to his wives, we're in Maya. And they executed austerity together, and then eventually they all went back to Godhead. So that's another story of Garuda. Anyway, so he's a very potent personality. Another point in the verse is that everything happens, or all things occur within this cosmic manifestation under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we talked about this yesterday, how devotees should see Krishna everywhere and everything in Krishna. Yomam pashati sarvatra savam chamaya pashati tashaham naparashami sacha me naparanashati. Then you're not lost. That's Krishna consciousness, to see Krishna everywhere. Another point is the one of the Chatra Shloka verses, Rute Ratam Napratyeta, Napriyeta chakni tadvayada manomayam yatabashayatadamaha. That if one sees anything not connected to Krishna, that's Maya. In other words, you may not be on the level of Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilod Shanena, seeing Shaima Sundar everywhere, Shaima Sundar Machincha Gunasvarupa. But at least you can understand when you see this table, that's Krishna's energy. In other words, the table should remind you of Krishna. Or like if you see someone's car, it should remind you of the person who drives it or owns the car. When you see the shoes of the spiritual master, then immediately you're reminded of the spiritual master. So for a devotee, a real devotee, everything becomes a vibav, a stimulation. Vibav means a stimulation for ecstasy or emotions. Even a table, even the rain, right? Even disease, even the coronavirus. Why? Mrityu Sarvaharascha. Right? You see Krishna everywhere. This is what it means to be Krishna conscious. And then you can't be in Maya. Because then you see that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavasha. Idam sarvam yadgam jaja jagat. Tena chiktena bunjita madhurza kashavidara. Everything is owned by Krishna. Everything is meant to be used for Krishna's service. That's Krishna consciousness. So that's the point that Prabhupada is making in this verse, that whatever happens, whatever we see, it's Krishna. Don't forget it. So any questions or comments? Questions, comments, problems, arguments? Yes. He's what? Garuda's position. Yeah, what is it? Oh, rasa, servitude. Yeah. Yeah, he's certainly not. He's certainly not Krishna's buddy. However, Garuda is actually an expansion of a cowherd boy who is Krishna's friend. You'll see, it's explained in the Chaitanya, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that all the associates of Lord Vishnu or the various expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are all basically expansions of the personalities in Goloka Vrindavan. It's interesting, isn't it? So Garuda is an expansion of the cowherd boy. It's either Sridham or Sudam, and I forget right now. But Garuda is an expansion of the cowherd boy. But as that expansion, he's just servitude. And that's generally the Vaikuntha mood. I mean, other than you have Lakshmi and some others like Aditi, who is the mother of Vamana Dev. Generally, but even when you have some, let's say, conjugal ras in Vaikuntha, like with Lakshmi, for example, it's always in the mode of awe and reverence. Lakshmi is basically scared of talking back to Vishnu, to Narayan. She's scared. Just like I told the story of Gaur Purnima, how Lakshmi was asked by Narada Muni to give him some Mahaprasad, but she was scared of disobeying Narayan's instruction. Right? So it's in the mood of awe and reverence. There's no like intimacy like you have in Vrindavan. There's no superiority like you have in Vrindavan. Superiority means that, Yashoda Mai thinks she's superior to Krishna, is protecting Krishna, and especially the gopis, like that, or the cowherd boys. They're wrestling with Krishna, intimacy like that. Garuda does not have that intimate relationship with Krishna. I mean, carries Krishna, that's pretty intimate. But it's not like Garuda slaps Vishnu on the back and says, "Hey, Vishnu, how you doing, buddy?" But Arjuna was able to lay in the same bed with Krishna and joke and everything like that. And especially in Goloka Vrindavan, you have this intimacy. You know, this wrestling. Ruda doesn't wrestle with Krishna, with Vishnu. But the coward boys, they wrestle. You know? And they have fights. So it's very nice. So yeah, that's his ras is servitude. And he's also Jiva Tattva. He's not Vishnu Tattva. Or Shakti Tattva. He's Jiva Tattva. But he's internally serving. Like Arjuna's Jiva Tattva too. But he's internally with the Lord. Whenever Krishna appears, Arjuna appears. Just like it's described in the Gita, how when Krishna taught the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, Vivaswan, Arjuna was there. And Arjuna forgot. Krishna remembered. Because Arjuna changed his manifestation. Even though he's spiritual as a spiritual body, but he changes from. He's eternal. Or he's with Krishna when Krishna appeared as the Narayan, and as far as Narayan. So these are eternal. Guru is eternal associate of the Lord. Sometimes it appears that he's appearing or becomes Krishna conscious, but actually he's always Krishna conscious. So any other questions or comments? Time to greet the deities? Okay, thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace. Shila